Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 4. We are going to begin chapter 9, Dhruva returns home. Dhruva perfects his meditation and sees Vishnu, who comes in person to bless him. The prince then returns to his family. Vidur leaned forward. What happened next? So just to give you a quick recap, yesterday and the day before we were going through how child Dhruva, he left for the forest when he was refused to sit on his father's lap by his stepmother, and in the forest he did so many austerities, and Narad appeared and guided him and instructed him, and now Dhruva has returning home. That's what we're going to read in this chapter, or rather he returns home. Vidur leaned forward. What happened next? Verse 1, Maitreya said, once they were reassured by Vishnu, the gods were peaceful. They offered their obeisance to the Lord and returned to their respective heavenly planets. Then Garbhodakshai Vishnu, whom Dhruva saw in his trance, expanded himself as Prishni Garbha, and riding on Garud, he went to Madhuvan forest to see his motionless on one leg. His eyes closed in ecstasy, he visualized a form of Vishnu, brilliant like lightning. Suddenly Vishnu disappeared. Dhruva let out an involuntary cry. Where was his Lord? His meditation broken, and he opened his eyes. Standing before him was the same person he had seen in his heart. Verse 3, surges of bliss swept through Dhruva's body. He was stunned and unable to move. He perspired and goose pimples covered his body. His complexion turned pale, tears welled in his eyes. His voice choked and his body shook. He stared unblinkingly, drinking Narayan's beauty with his eyes. Then he fell flat before him like a rod, touching the tips of Lord's feet. If only he could embrace and kiss him. Verses 4 and 5. Gradually he returned to his senses. He wanted to offer suitable prayers, but his mind was blank. What could he say? He had not yet studied the Vedas. His brow furrowed in concentration. The Lord reached out and gently touched Dhruva's forehead with his conch shell. At once all the Vedic conclusions were revealed to Dhruva. He perfectly understood the nature of the absolute truth and his different energies. So this is how we hear that causeless mercy, and it is revealed just like that to a pure devotee. He perfectly understood the nature of the absolute truth and his different energies, as well as his own relationship with them. His intellect had at once matured into that of his adult self. Remember, he is only a 5-year-old child. In the future, he would be so wise that he would rule a planet which would never be destroyed, even at the time of universal annihilation. Composing himself, he began to speak. Verse 6, my dear Lord, you are all-powerful. By entering me, you have given me spiritual senses. My hands, legs, ears, touch, sensation, life force, and especially my power of speech are spontaneously and irresistibly drawn to serve and glorify you. Please accept my respectful obeisance. Verse 7, Lord, although you are always an individual, you possess multifarious, all-pervading energies by which you act in both the spiritual and material worlds. In the material cosmos, your energy Maya first manifests the Mahat Tattva, which includes the 3 modes of nature required for creation. You then enter the cosmos in your personal form, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and activate the varieties of existence. Just as fire acts variously in different types of wood, smoking, smoldering, sputtering, or blazing. Similarly, you as the super soul act differently in bodies which are in the mode of ignorance, passion, goodness, or pure goodness. In other words, you inspire non-devotees to act for sense gratification according to the modes of nature, influencing them, but you inspire your devotees to engage in your loving service. So, a beautiful summary in this verse of Lord's creation and how Lord is fulfilling all our desires in each of us according to the predominant mode of nature we are situated in. Verse 8, O my Master, Lord Brahma fully surrendered to you and you gave him knowledge by which he could see and understand the entire universe. Just as one awakening from sleep visualizes his duties, your lotus feet are the only shelter for those desiring liberation, and you are the friend of the distressed. How can one in perfect knowledge ever forget his obligation to you? Verse 9, Dhruva momentarily hung his head. How foolish he was to have desired a kingdom. Of all those who approached the Lord, he was the lowest. So this is what happens. One may start doing the devotional service thinking, I want these particular material desires to be fulfilled. But when the Lord gives his darshan, gives his audience to the devotee, then a devotee suddenly realizes how he or she was thinking to get the benedictions from Lord. They were all material and they actually wanted the spiritual benedictions. Dhruva momentarily hung his head. How foolish he was to have desired a kingdom. Of all those who approached the Lord, he was the lowest. The Lord smiled kindly, encouraging him to speak his mind. Dhruva continued, people who worship you for the worldly profit are bewildered by your material energy. When you, who are like a desired tree, can grant liberation from birth and death, only a fool like me approaches you for sense gratification, which is available even to the hogs and the dogs. So everybody is enjoying the simple fun of eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. A smile played at the corner of Prishnigarbha's mouth. Do you mean to say that the highest boon I can grant is to merge you into my effulgence, the impersonal Brahman? Dhruva looked at the Lord. What did he mean? Of course, generally when people spoke of liberation, they meant merging with the Brahman, or in other words, becoming one with the Lord. Verse 10, Dhruva said, My Lord, the transcendental bliss one enjoys by meditating on you or hearing about you from your pure devotees far exceeds even the happiness of merging with you. Never mind that of going to the heavenly planets, which is so fleeting. What then would you like from me? Asked Prishnigarbha. My Lord, please bless me that I may forever associate with great devotees who always hear about and glorify you. You do not want liberation. I only want to hear about you from your pure devotees who have no material contamination. The bliss that comes from such association is endless, like the waves of a flowing river. You will still have to suffer the pains of birth and death, said the Lord. My Lord, the great joy that comes in such association vanquishes all suffering. I am no longer afraid of material existence, for I have become intensely eager to hear about your eternal qualities and pastimes. Think carefully, Dhruva. Do not be rash. When you have a material body, it is impossible to avoid physical disturbance. There will also be suffering coming from relatives and life in general. We all know the Adidevic, Adhyatmic and Adibhautik problems of sufferings of this world. These are the Adibhautik problems Lord is talking here. Verse 12, O lotus-naveled Lord, please just give me the association of your pure devotees who are fully absorbed in relishing the fragrance of your lotus feet, that will free me from the bodily pains and pleasures and from attachment to my relatives, home and wealth. Prishnigarbha said, very well, why then have you worshipped me all this time for a kingdom greater than your forefathers? Verse 13, my Lord, I am merely an ignorant child interested in childish things. I was attracted to the material world inhabited by gods, demons, humans, animals, birds, reptiles and trees. I now know that all these are but manifestations of the Mahat Tattva, your form as the total material energy, which is sometimes manifest and sometimes not. I had no idea that beyond this is your wonderful personal form and how rewarding is to serve you. So all of us are on one or other platform in our God realization, and the ones who have understood that worshipping Lord's personal form is the highest form of worship, they desire nothing else. They don't desire the low desires of just sense gratification and liberation. Because serving the Lord, they've understood, is the highest form of devotional service. By your grace, I am factually experiencing this and need no hunger theorize about what is the highest truth. If you now know me in truth, pray tell, who am I? Verse 14, Dhruva said, I offer you my respectful obeisance, for you are the same Garbhodakshai Vishnu who lies asleep on the divine serpent Sheshnag at the end of each creation. The entire universe dissolves and enters your belly. Then at the start of the next creation, a golden lotus grows from your navel on which appears Lord Brahma. Prishnigarbha said, if I also sleep, how am I different from anyone else? Verse 15, my Lord, there is a gulf of difference between you and the conditioned souls. They are subject to ignorance, whereas you are always liberated, the witness of everything, present as the unchanging supersoul, complete with 6 excellences, that is the opulences, as we know, knowledge, fame, and so on. You are the enjoyer of all sacrifice and master of the material nature, which you maintain without becoming contaminated. Verse 16, the impersonal Brahman which causes the material manifestation is your bodily effulgence. It has no beginning and is undivided, changeless, unlimited and blissful. Nevertheless, within the Brahman there are 2 conflicting energies, knowledge and ignorance. With many subdivisions, therefore, I offer you my respectful obeisance. Vishnu beamed, O young boy, you have understood me very well. Even though you no longer desire anything material, I will still give you that for which you previously worshipped me, it is yours. So this is the beauty. Whatever we worship to God for, God grants our wishes. So it is so potent. It is so important for all of us to remember what we desire for and not just waste our time in the small desire, in the fulfillment of small desires from Lord. Because we haven't got time and lives as they had in the earlier yugas. Verse 17, tears streamed down Dhruva's upturned face. He pressed his hands together. How foolish he had been to desire kingdom. He said, my Lord, you are life's ultimate goal. To engage in your loving devotional service without ulterior motives is better than ruling a vast kingdom. Love for you is the greatest benediction. Just as a cow protects her calf by supplying it with milk and protecting it from predators, similarly, you have protected me, an ignorant, foolish child, even though I came to you for a petty material boon. Out of your causeless mercy, you have let me taste the sweetness of your devotional service. So, when we hear that Lord does what is best for us, is very correct. After hearing Dhruva's pastimes, we can understand that. Now Dhruva is asking that, is saying to the Lord that out of your causeless mercy you have let me taste the sweetness of your devotional service. Now please protect me from the obstacles to your pure devotion. So this is what we have to aim for as well. So this is why reading Bhagavatam is so important. We get so many instructions from the lives of the devotees who actually reached the Godhead. Verse 18, the Lord nodded approvingly how eager the boy was to engage in his loving service. He even feared receiving material benedictions, thinking they may deviate him from pure devotion. Prishni Garbha's eyes moistened. I think this is how Lord feels when we ultimately turn to Lord for the devotional service after wasting so many lifetimes after lifetimes. Dhruva's bhakti was so advanced that he would never give it up even if he received immense material opulence. Verse 19, the Lord said, O Prince, you determinedly follow your vows with a desire to obtain a kingdom greater than all your forefathers, given that one of them is Lord Brahma, who rules over the entire universe. Your ambition is difficult to fulfill. Nevertheless, I shall do so. Now, you just have realizations after realizations while reading these pastimes of Dhruva Maharaj, and you just can't help but just to say, wow, wow. Dhruva's face shriveled. This was what he feared. Prishnigarbha smiled. Let there be all good fortune for you, Dhruva. I shall also grant you that which is rarely attained. Pure devotion to me, have no fear. So, Dhruva has been granted not only the material fulfillment of his the fulfillment of his all his material desires, which he actually wanted in the first place, to have greater kingdom than his not just father but the forefathers. But Lord has also granted him the pure devotional service, because after seeing Lord, Dhruva felt that his desires were really shallow and he needed to ask for the ultimate boon. Verses 20 to 22, the Lord raised a graceful hand. Fortunate boy, I give you the radiant planet known as the pole star, which we also know as Dhruvalok. The unique feature of this planet is that it continues to exist even during the dissolution. At the end of Brahma's day, you are the first person to rule this planet. All other stars and planets, including the planets of Dharma, Agni, Kashyap and Shukra, circle it just as bull circles a pole to which it is attached. You will inherit your father's kingdom when he retires. You will thus rule the entire world for 36,000 years, and all your senses will remain as strong as they are now. In other words, you will never grow old. When your reign on earth comes to an end, you will rule the pole star. So, Dhruva got the ultimate benedictions from Supreme Lord. Verse 23, now please hear what shall become of your stepmother Suruchi. Because of her offense to you, she will become mad when her son Uttam is killed on hunting exhibition. She will go to the forest in search of him and perish in the forest fire. So this is going to be the life of Suruchi. Dhruva has already been told. Dhruva looked down. This was all his fault. And yes, we realize that sometimes we aggravate others, and how the journeys are somehow deviated for each of us. So we have to be so careful in our behavior, in our karma, that we should try our best to give the Lord's name to each other, and not just get bewildered with the small ups and downs which come in our lives. So we'll continue from here onwards next time. These are beautiful instructions, very, very important instructions, and they have to be heard again and again, and we should get our own realizations through them. So thank you for joining. I wish you all a very blissful day ahead. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.